Marcus Sinclair was the kind of man who commanded attention the moment he entered a room. Tall, impeccably dressed, and radiating an effortless charm, he was the quintessential billionaire businessman, the kind the media adored. His sharp suits, confident smile, and the impressive skyscraper that bore his name painted a picture of success forged by sheer will and determination. To the public, Marcus was the embodiment of the American dream, a self-made billionaire who clawed his way to the top with grit and ambition. Beside him always stood Evelyn, his elegant wife, who complemented his stature with poise and grace. Her presence was subtle yet undeniable, a picture-perfect spouse who attended gala dinners and charity events, supporting Marcus with warm smiles and measured words. She was, by all accounts, the supportive partner behind a powerful man. Yet beneath the glittering surface of their public lives, the dynamics between Marcus and Evelyn were far more complex. Evelyn was not merely a decorative accessory to Marcus's empire. She was intelligent, fiercely determined, and possessed a sharp mind that rivaled, if not surpassed, her husband's. However, Marcus, blinded by his own ego and the public's adoration, struggled with the shadow Evelyn cast. In private meetings and behind closed doors, she was the real force guiding the company's most crucial decisions, using her strategic insight to steer the business through storms that Marcus himself barely understood. The tension between them simmered silently, invisible to the outside world but palpable to anyone who looked closely. Marcus felt the slow erosion of his spotlight, the weight of Evelyn's intellect casting a shadow he neither welcomed nor respected. Amid this strained balance, a new figure entered their lives, Chloe. Young, ambitious, and breathtakingly beautiful, Chloe was everything Marcus fancied as the embodiment of fresh success and allure. She was the kind of woman who turned heads effortlessly, with her confident strides and sparkling eyes that promised both excitement and loyalty. Unlike Evelyn, whose power was quiet and rooted in knowledge, Chloe was the dazzling distraction Marcus craved. Her youth and charm represented a tempting contrast to Evelyn's composed and commanding presence. To Marcus, she was the perfect choice to replace the woman who had grown to eclipse him in power and influence, even if he did not yet realize the full extent of Evelyn's true strength. But while Marcus saw Chloe as a prize to be won, Evelyn's quiet power remained hidden, waiting beneath the surface. She was the real architect of the vast wealth that Marcus flaunted, the mastermind behind the empire that everyone believed he had built alone. Her control was subtle but unyielding, a force that no one, not even Marcus, could easily unravel. This delicate facade of wealth and power was about to shatter, revealing truths that would change everything for all three of them. The story of Marcus, Evelyn, and Chloe was only beginning, and beneath the glittering veneer of high society, the real game was about to unfold. Years before the glittering skyline bore Marcus Sinclair's name, before the spotlight illuminated his every move, there was Evelyn. Their story began at a modest charity event, far removed from the luxury and power they would later command. Evelyn was unlike anyone Marcus had ever met, graceful yet sharp, with an intellect that sparkled just as brightly as her poised demeanor. She came from a background few could rival, born into wealth but far more than a mere heiress. Evelyn was a business genius in her own right. Raised in a family where boardroom battles were as common as family dinners, she had developed a strategic mind that could dissect markets and foresee trends long before they became apparent. It was this brilliance that first caught Marcus's attention, not just her beauty or charm, but her rare ability to see the intricate patterns in chaos. From their first conversation, it was clear that Evelyn was destined for far more than the role of a socialite or a trophy wife. As their relationship blossomed, Evelyn quickly became the backbone of what would grow into the Sinclair empire. While Marcus was the charismatic face, attending glamorous events and securing high-profile deals, it was Evelyn who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. She managed the company's finances with precision, navigating complex investment portfolios and ensuring that every penny was leveraged for maximum growth. Her influence extended to key decisions, whether it was acquiring struggling companies, negotiating mergers, or steering the company through volatile markets. Marcus often relied on her intuition and counsel, even if publicly he claimed sole credit for their success. Her role was covert, almost invisible to the outside world, but without her, the empire would have crumbled under the weight of mismanagement or ill-informed decisions. Evelyn's sacrifices were many and largely unseen. While Marcus basked in the glory of media attention and public accolades, Evelyn spent countless nights poring over reports, drafting strategies, and calming panicked investors during financial crises. There were moments when the company teetered on the edge of disaster, market crashes, legal battles, and internal betrayals, and it was Evelyn's calm, calculated interventions that pulled them back from ruin. She gave up personal ambitions and a private life to maintain the fragile balance of their empire, often at great emotional cost. The stress and pressure she endured would have broken many, but Evelyn's resolve only strengthened. She was the silent guardian of their legacy, keeping the ship steady while Marcus took the helm in public view. Yet, as the company's success soared, so did Marcus's ego. He began to see Evelyn less as a partner and more as a background player in his narrative. The gratitude she once received was replaced by entitlement and dismissiveness. Marcus reveled in the adoration of the press and the envy of his peers, all the while ignoring the woman whose mind had built the foundation of it all. Their dynamic shifted, the balance tipping dangerously toward Marcus's inflated sense of self-worth. Evelyn's warnings were brushed aside, her contributions minimized, and her presence reduced to that of a decorative spouse. But beneath the surface, Evelyn harbored a quiet strength and a growing awareness that Marcus's pride might be the very thing that would undo him. The secret of their empire was no longer just their shared history, it was a ticking time bomb waiting to expose the truth behind the glittering facade. As time passed, Marcus found himself increasingly restless with the dynamics of his partnership with Evelyn. Though she had been the pillar of their empire, her dominance in the business and in their personal lives began to feel like a cage to him. Marcus craved the spotlight, the admiration, and the sense of control that came with being the undisputed head of their world. Evelyn's intellect and quiet authority, which once fascinated him, now threatened his ego. He resented feeling overshadowed and feared that the world might eventually see her as the true power behind the throne. This simmering discontent pushed Marcus to seek a way to reclaim his position as the undisputed star of their story. It was at an exclusive gala, filled with glittering chandeliers and the murmur of high society, that Marcus first noticed Chloe. She was everything Marcus thought he wanted, young, beautiful, and seemingly eager to please. Unlike Evelyn, whose strength was quiet and formidable, Chloe exuded a playful charm mixed with a naive submissiveness that appealed to Marcus's desire for dominance. To him, she was a breath of fresh air, a chance to rewrite his narrative with someone who would admire him openly and unquestioningly. In Chloe, Marcus saw an opportunity to replace Evelyn not just publicly but personally, a chance to build a new image with a woman who would never challenge him. The decision to move on from Evelyn was not sudden but calculated. Marcus began to distance himself, orchestrating a public split that shocked their social circles. The confrontation between Marcus and Evelyn was cold and measured. There were no shouting matches or dramatic outbursts, just a quiet, almost clinical discussion where Marcus laid out his intentions with a mixture of arrogance and finality. Evelyn listened with a calm that masked the deep hurt, her eyes betraying the pain of betrayal yet refusing to break under the weight of his words. She knew Marcus's choice was more about his bruised ego than any real shortcomings on her part, but the wound it left was undeniable. Still, Evelyn's response was composed, she neither begged nor pleaded. Instead, she made a silent vow in that moment, she would not let Marcus's betrayal define her or her future. Meanwhile, Chloe's role in this unfolding drama was marked by innocence and ignorance. At first, she saw herself as the fortunate new partner to a powerful man, unaware of the complex history and hidden tensions between Marcus and Evelyn. She did not know that she was stepping into a world of shadows and unspoken rivalries. Chloe's initial involvement was driven by ambition and a desire to belong, but she lacked the understanding of the true dynamics at play. She was a pawn in a game much larger than she realized, caught between Marcus's need for control and Evelyn's quiet determination to reclaim what was rightfully hers. As the story moved forward, Chloe's naivety would be tested, forcing her to confront realities she had never anticipated. After Marcus's cold declaration and the public unraveling of their partnership, Evelyn retreated from the glaring spotlight that had once defined her life. She disappeared from the social scenes and the business gala circuits, allowing the world to believe that the great force behind the Sinclair empire had been defeated. But beneath this calm exterior, Evelyn was far from broken. The pain of betrayal and the sting of being cast aside fueled a fire within her, a fire that would drive her to reclaim not only her dignity but the empire she had helped build from the ground up. Rather than succumbing to despair, Evelyn used this period of isolation as a time to strategize, to reflect, and to plan her comeback with precision. Evelyn's deep knowledge of the business world, coupled with her extensive network of contacts, became her greatest assets during this phase. While Marcus had flaunted his wealth and power in public, Evelyn had quietly mastered the art of influence behind the scenes. She reached out to trusted allies, investors, advisors, and loyal employees who had long respected her leadership and vision. Many were disillusioned with Marcus's reckless decisions and were eager to support Evelyn's return to power. Through discreet meetings in private offices and exclusive clubs, Evelyn began weaving a web of support that would form the foundation of her independent empire. Her strategic moves were both bold and calculated. Evelyn started by quietly acquiring shares of the Sinclair Corporation on the open market, steadily increasing her stake without attracting attention. Simultaneously, she launched new ventures in emerging markets, targeting industries that Marcus had dismissed as too risky or insignificant. These ventures were designed not just to generate revenue but to showcase her innovative approach to business, focusing on sustainability, technology, and social impact, areas where she saw the future of corporate success. Leveraging hidden assets, including offshore investments in intellectual property that Marcus had underestimated, Evelyn built a diversified portfolio that strengthened her financial position and expanded her influence. Throughout this process, Evelyn's network proved invaluable. Loyal employees who had once worked under her guidance became key players in her new ventures, helping to implement her vision with dedication and expertise. Former rivals and competitors who respected her tenacity also offered strategic partnerships, recognizing that Evelyn's comeback was not just inevitable but overdue. This growing coalition of support transformed Evelyn from a sidelined ex-wife into a formidable business leader in her own right, capable of challenging Marcus's dominance on multiple fronts. Emotionally, Evelyn's journey was a complex and evolving one. The initial shock of betrayal gave way to a profound sense of loss, as she grappled with the end of a partnership that had defined her identity for so long. The pain was deep, not just from Marcus's rejection but from the shattering of trust and the erosion of what she had believed was a shared vision for their future. Yet, amid this emotional turmoil, Evelyn discovered a wellspring of determination. She refused to be a victim of Marcus's ego or the public narrative that had painted her as the discarded wife. Instead, she channeled her hurt into resolve, transforming pain into power with relentless focus. This internal transformation was reflected starkly in Evelyn's outward demeanor. To the world, she maintained the composed, graceful image that had always been her hallmark. She moved through social and professional circles with the same elegance and confidence as before, revealing nothing of the storm raging within. But behind the poised facade was a woman burning with ambition and an unyielding drive to reclaim her place. This contrast between Evelyn's serene exterior and her fiery inner strength became one of her greatest weapons, disarming those who underestimated her while allowing her to plot her resurgence with clarity and calm. In time, Evelyn's efforts began to bear fruit. Her new ventures gained traction, attracting attention from industry insiders and the media alike. Investors who had once dismissed her as a shadow behind Marcus started recognizing her as a visionary leader with a unique perspective. Her growing influence sent ripples through the business world, challenging Marcus's narrative and setting the stage for a confrontation that would redefine their legacy. Evelyn had transformed from the wronged wife into a powerful architect of her destiny, proving that true strength often lies not in public acclaim but in the quiet determination to rise above adversity. As Chloe settled into her new life beside Marcus, the glamorous parties and luxurious homes initially blinded her to the complicated reality beneath the surface. But as time passed, subtle cracks in the perfect image began to show, and Chloe started noticing things that unsettled her. Whispered conversations behind closed doors, the cautious glances from company employees, and the way people spoke of Evelyn with a mixture of respect and sorrow all hinted at a story far more complex than Marcus had ever let on. Slowly, Chloe began to realize that Marcus was not the flawless, confident man she had imagined. Behind his charm lay a man consumed by ego, willing to discard anyone who threatened his sense of control, even if that person was the woman who had built everything he claimed as his own. This growing awareness sparked a deep conflict within Chloe. She was no longer the naive trophy girlfriend basking in the glow of a billionaire's affection. She began to see herself as a pawn in a game she had barely understood, caught between Marcus's need for dominance and Evelyn's quiet, determined fight for justice. The weight of this realization was heavy. Chloe felt trapped, unsure whether to continue playing the role Marcus expected of her or to break free from the illusion. Her heart ached as she witnessed the damage Marcus's betrayal had caused, not just to Evelyn but to herself as well. Driven by a mix of curiosity and guilt, Chloe made tentative attempts to reach out to Evelyn. These encounters were charged with tension. Evelyn's composed exterior barely concealed the hurt and mistrust she felt toward Chloe. Their conversations were careful and guarded, each woman testing the other's intentions. Evelyn saw in Chloe both a symbol of her husband's betrayal and a potential ally, someone who could choose to stand on the right side of history. Chloe, meanwhile, struggled to reconcile the image of Evelyn as a strong, dignified woman with her own feelings of confusion and remorse. These meetings forced Chloe to confront uncomfortable truths and challenged her to think beyond the superficial life she had known. Through this process, Chloe underwent significant growth. The sparkling, carefree woman who had once seemed content to be admired for her looks transformed into someone willing to question her choices and values. She began educating herself about the business, learning about Evelyn's contributions and the sacrifices she had made. This new knowledge stirred a sense of respect and empathy toward Evelyn, as well as a growing disillusionment with Marcus's arrogance and manipulation. Chloe realized that her happiness and integrity depended on more than just wealth and status. It required courage to face the truth and make difficult decisions. Ultimately, Chloe reached a crossroads. She had to decide whether to remain loyal to Marcus, maintaining the comfortable but hollow role he had assigned to her, or to stand with Evelyn, aligning herself with the woman who embodied resilience and justice. This decision was not easy. It meant risking public scandal, personal heartbreak, and the uncertainty of forging her own path. But for the first time, Chloe understood that true power came from choosing authenticity over convenience, and she prepared herself to take a stand that would change the course of all their lives. As Evelyn's independent ventures began to gain traction, Marcus found himself gradually losing the firm grip he once had on his empire. What had seemed like a simple personal betrayal now spiraled into a public and professional unraveling. While Marcus had once been celebrated as the brilliant businessman steering their joint empire to unprecedented heights, the tides of fortune began to shift under his feet. Evelyn's strategic investments and forward-thinking projects captured the attention of the business world, and with each new success, whispers started circulating, whispers that Marcus's leadership might not be as infallible as the media had once portrayed. The public opinion shifted subtly but unmistakably. At first, it was the faintest ripple, a cautious question here, an offhand comment there, wondering if Marcus had become complacent or reckless in his decisions. Rumors began to spread about mismanagement, missed opportunities, and questionable alliances. Business analysts started pointing to financial reports that showed inconsistencies, declines in key sectors, and unexplained losses. Social media buzzed with speculation, and the once untouchable image of Marcus began to tarnish. Investors who had been loyal for years began voicing their concerns in private meetings, fearing that their fortunes might be at risk under his stewardship. The media, always hungry for a scandal or a fall from grace, started probing deeper into the cracks forming in Marcus's empire. Amid this growing turmoil, Chloe's relationship with Marcus also started to change. The initial allure of being with a powerful billionaire dimmed as she witnessed his unraveling and erratic behavior. The charm that had once captivated her was replaced by frustration, paranoia, and a desperate need to control the narrative. Chloe, once eager to be at Marcus's side, began to distance herself, both emotionally and physically. She recognized that Marcus's obsession with maintaining power was consuming him, blinding him to reality and pushing away those who might have supported him. Her growing disillusionment was a quiet but significant blow to Marcus, who depended on her presence to project strength and stability. Meanwhile, Marcus's business partners and key investors grew increasingly restless. The confidence that had once underpinned their dealings with him started to waver. Board meetings became tense, with pointed questions directed at Marcus and his recent decisions. Proposals for restructuring the company surfaced, and discussions about potential leadership changes quietly took place behind closed doors. Marcus's inability to present a clear and convincing vision for the company's future further eroded trust. Investors who had once been his staunchest allies began exploring alternative options, including increasing their support for Evelyn's ventures, which were showing consistent growth and promise. The power dynamics within the company shifted, and Marcus felt the walls closing in. Unbeknownst to Marcus, Evelyn's moves were both discreet and devastatingly effective. She avoided public confrontations and flashy announcements, instead focusing on methodical strategies that steadily undermined his control. By leveraging her growing network and increasing her shareholdings, Evelyn gained voting power that challenged Marcus's authority. She forged alliances with influential board members and major stakeholders, convincing them that her leadership was the key to the company's survival and growth. Evelyn's reputation for thoughtful decision-making and innovative ideas won over skeptics and rallied support for her vision. Her behind-the-scenes maneuvering destabilized Marcus's once unassailable position without causing overt chaos, making it difficult for him to fight back effectively. As these pressures mounted, Marcus's frustration and paranoia intensified. His once confident demeanor gave way to erratic outbursts and increasingly desperate attempts to regain control. He lashed out at colleagues, questioned loyalties, and sought to intimidate those who sided with Evelyn. The man who had once seemed invincible now appeared vulnerable and unbalanced. His paranoia made him suspect even those closest to him, isolating him further. The empire he had so proudly claimed was slipping through his fingers, and his inability to accept this reality only hastened his downfall. The very traits that had once propelled him to the top, arrogance, ambition, and a desire for dominance, became the chains that bound him to a spiral of decline. In this crucial phase of the battle for power, Marcus's world began to unravel piece by piece. Evelyn's silent but relentless rise contrasted sharply with his faltering grasp on the empire, signaling the beginning of a dramatic reversal of fortunes. The man who had once replaced Evelyn underestimated the woman who had built the empire, and that miscalculation was proving to be his undoing. The power struggle between Evelyn and Marcus intensified with a ferocity that shook the very foundation of their empire. What began as a silent war of influence transformed into a public and corporate battlefield where every move was scrutinized, and every word carried weight. Board meetings, once routine and predictable, became arenas of confrontation. Evelyn, armed with newfound confidence in a coalition of allies, challenged Marcus's decisions with precision and authority. She presented detailed analyses that exposed flaws in his leadership, revealing reckless investments and lapses in judgment that had put the company at risk. Her arguments were supported by documents and insider testimonies she had meticulously gathered, painting a damning picture of Marcus's mismanagement. Marcus, unwilling to concede, launched a counterattack both inside and outside the boardroom. Desperate to protect his reputation and maintain control, he resorted to smearing Evelyn's character. He leaked damaging rumors to the media, questioning her motives and integrity, attempting to portray her as a disgruntled ex-wife driven by bitterness and revenge. Tabloids splashed sensational headlines accusing Evelyn of underhanded tactics and personal vendettas. Yet, these attempts backfired. The public and the business community saw through the smear campaigns, recognizing Marcus's desperation and the strength of Evelyn's evidence. Instead of diminishing her credibility, his attacks only galvanized support for Evelyn, who remained poised and unshaken, refusing to be dragged into petty mudslinging. Amid this escalating battle, Chloe emerged as an unpredictable wild card. Her shifting loyalties and insider knowledge had the potential to tip the scales decisively. Having spent time with both Marcus and Evelyn, Chloe was privy to intimate details and confidential conversations that could influence the outcome of board decisions and legal proceedings. Both sides sought to win her allegiance, offering promises and veiled threats. Chloe found herself caught in an emotional and ethical dilemma, realizing that her choice could either solidify Marcus's hold on power or facilitate Evelyn's rightful rise. Her internal struggle added a layer of complexity to the conflict, as she wrestled with feelings of guilt, loyalty, and the desire to do what was right. The emotional toll on all involved was immense. For Evelyn, the fight was not just about business but about reclaiming her identity and dignity after betrayal. The stress of legal battles, public scrutiny, and personal confrontations tested her resilience, yet she drew strength from the knowledge that she was fighting for justice. Marcus grappled with the unraveling of the empire he thought he controlled, his frustration morphing into bitterness and paranoia. The pressure eroded his confidence and isolated him from former allies. Chloe's journey was marked by confusion and growth, as she confronted harsh truths about the people she had trusted and the life she wanted to build. Each character faced their own demons, their pasts intertwining with their present struggles. Flashbacks interspersed the narrative, peeling back the layers of their marriage and revealing the complex dynamics hidden beneath the polished surface. Moments of tenderness and shared dreams contrasted starkly with episodes of manipulation, resentment, and unspoken power struggles. These glimpses into their history illuminated the reasons behind their current conflict, the ways in which love, ambition, and betrayal had collided over the years. The marriage was shown not as a fairy tale but as a battleground where each had fought for control in different ways. These memories added depth to the characters, reminding the audience that their battle was not only for a company but for the meaning of trust, respect, and self-worth. As the corporate and personal battles raged on, it became clear that this was more than a fight for money or status. It was a clash of wills, a test of character, and a reckoning with past choices. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain, but one truth emerged clearly: the empire they had built together could not survive without confronting the realities they had long avoided. Evelyn's unyielding pursuit of justice and Marcus's desperate attempts to cling to power set the stage for a dramatic resolution that would redefine their lives and legacy forever. The turning point came when Evelyn secured overwhelming support from the company's shareholders, marking a decisive shift in power that no one could ignore. After months of strategic maneuvering, careful alliance building, and relentless dedication, she presented a compelling vision for the future, one grounded in innovation, transparency, and sustainable growth. Shareholders, many of whom had grown weary of Marcus's erratic leadership and declining reputation, rallied behind Evelyn with a unanimous vote of confidence. The boardroom that had once echoed with Marcus's commanding voice now stood firmly behind Evelyn, officially recognizing her as the rightful leader of the empire she had long built in the shadows. This moment was not just a corporate victory, it was a public declaration that the era of Marcus's dominance was over, and a new chapter had begun. With this official transfer of power, Evelyn's true role as the mastermind behind the wealth was revealed to the world. The media, investors, and the public were stunned as documents, testimonies, and insider stories surfaced, painting a vivid picture of Evelyn's immense contributions. Articles praised her sharp intellect, strategic foresight, and unwavering dedication, qualities that had quietly shaped the company's success for years. The narrative shifted dramatically from Marcus as the self-made billionaire to Evelyn as the real architect of the empire, a woman whose brilliance had been hidden behind a carefully maintained facade. This revelation not only restored Evelyn's reputation but also inspired countless others who saw her story as a testament to resilience and unrecognized strength. Faced with this overwhelming defeat, Marcus had no choice but to step down. His resignation was swift and marked by a mix of anger, humiliation, and reluctant acceptance. The man who had once ruled the empire with confidence now found himself stripped of power and respect. His reputation, once untouchable, lay in tatters as the business community distanced itself from his name. Marcus retreated from the public eye, forced to confront the reality of his failures and the consequences of his arrogance. The fall was steep, a harsh lesson in humility that underscored the dangers of underestimating those who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Marcus's personal empire crumbled, leaving him to reflect on what he had lost, not just wealth and status, but trust, respect, and the love of a partner he had betrayed. Amid this upheaval, Chloe embarked on her own path of redemption. No longer content to be a mere accessory in Marcus's world, she chose integrity and self-awareness over convenience and superficial loyalty. Recognizing Evelyn's strength and the righteousness of her cause, Chloe made the courageous decision to distance herself from Marcus's shadow. Whether by partnering with Evelyn to help rebuild and innovate or by striking out independently to carve her own identity, Chloe's transformation symbolized hope and growth. Her journey from naive trophy to empowered woman resonated as a powerful subplot in the saga, a reminder that true strength often emerges from the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and choose authenticity. Evelyn's leadership style, now fully visible to the world, combined grace with firm resolve. She led with clarity, empathy, and strategic insight, qualities that earned her respect not only from shareholders but also from employees, partners, and the wider business community. Under her guidance, the company flourished, embracing new technologies and ethical practices that positioned it as a forward-thinking leader in the industry. Evelyn balanced decisiveness with compassion, fostering a culture of collaboration and innovation that contrasted sharply with Marcus's authoritarian approach. Her success was not just measured in profits but in the legacy she was building, a legacy defined by resilience, vision, and integrity. As Marcus retreated into solitude, he was left with time for deep personal reflection. The fall from grace forced him to confront the flaws in his character, the arrogance that blinded him to Evelyn's value, the pride that drove him to betray a partner who had been his equal, and the short-sightedness that undermined the very empire he claimed to have built. These realizations, though painful, offered a chance for growth and redemption. Marcus's story became a cautionary tale about the perils of ego and the importance of recognizing and honoring true partnership. In the quiet of his downfall, he began to understand that real power comes not from dominance or public adoration but from respect, humility, and collaboration. Ultimately, Evelyn's triumph and Marcus's humbling marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. The empire was no longer a symbol of individual glory but a testament to the strength of unity, intelligence, and perseverance. Evelyn's victory was not just a personal vindication but a beacon of inspiration for anyone who has ever been underestimated or overlooked. The story closed on a hopeful note, with Evelyn steering the empire toward a brighter future and Marcus facing the challenge of rebuilding himself from the lessons of his past. It was a dramatic, hard-won conclusion that celebrated the power of resilience and the transformative nature of true leadership. 1 year had passed since the storm that reshaped the Sinclair empire and the lives entwined within it. Evelyn stood at the helm as the sole leader of the company, a role she had long deserved but had only recently claimed in full. Under her guidance, the empire not only recovered but flourished in ways few had imagined possible. The initiatives she had launched, focused on innovation, sustainability, and ethical business practices, had begun to redefine the company's identity. Investors regained confidence, employees found renewed purpose, and the public came to admire the grace and strength with which Evelyn led. Her vision was clear and unwavering, rooted in the lessons of the past but firmly focused on building a future that was inclusive, responsible, and forward-thinking. Evelyn's leadership was no longer hidden behind the scenes, it was celebrated openly as the driving force behind the company's success. Meanwhile, Marcus lived a far different life. Removed from the spotlight and stripped of his former power, he had retreated into quiet reflection and humility. The arrogance and entitlement that once defined him had given way to a more somber understanding of his mistakes. Whether through therapy, philanthropy, or simply the passage of time, Marcus sought redemption, not the kind that restores status, but the kind that rebuilds character. His public appearances became rare, and his influence in the business world waned, but those who knew him glimpsed a man changed by his fall from grace. The lessons he had learned about respect, partnership, and humility were hard-earned, and while he could never reclaim what he lost, Marcus's journey towards self-awareness marked a meaningful transformation. In stepping away from power, he found a measure of peace that had eluded him in his relentless pursuit of dominance. Chloe, too, had moved on from the shadows of the Sinclair saga. The naive young woman who had once seen wealth and status as the ultimate goals had grown into a woman with a clearer sense of self and purpose. Her experiences taught her the importance of integrity, courage, and making choices aligned with her values. Whether she chose to collaborate with Evelyn on future ventures or forge an independent path in the business world, Chloe's story became one of empowerment and renewal. She embraced the challenges ahead with determination, no longer content to be defined by others but ready to write her own narrative. Chloe's growth was a testament to the power of reflection and the ability to rise above past mistakes. Evelyn's success extended beyond the boardroom. Recognizing the challenges she had faced as a woman in a male-dominated industry, she dedicated herself to mentoring young women entrepreneurs. Through workshops, scholarships, and personal coaching, Evelyn became a beacon of inspiration and support for those striving to break barriers and build their own empires. Her story of resilience and triumph resonated deeply, encouraging a new generation to pursue their ambitions with confidence and integrity. Evelyn's commitment to lifting others reflected her belief that true leadership involves not just personal achievement but empowering others to succeed. Reflecting on the journey that had brought them all to this point, the lessons were clear and profound. Power, while often seen as a public display of wealth and influence, was truly about the unseen strength within, the intelligence, resilience, and integrity that sustained success through adversity. Betrayal, though painful, could be transformed into a catalyst for growth and renewal. And self-worth was not determined by external validation but by the courage to stand firm in one's truth and values. Evelyn's story, in particular, stood as a powerful reminder that the real architect of success might not always be visible, but their impact is undeniable and lasting. In closing, the tale of Marcus, Evelyn, and Chloe offered more than just drama and intrigue. It provided a message of hope and empowerment. True strength often lies hidden, quietly shaping destinies away from the spotlight. No one can replace the real architect of success, for their influence extends beyond titles and accolades into the very foundation of what endures. As Evelyn continued to lead with grace and determination, she embodied this truth, showing the world that resilience, wisdom, and authenticity are the greatest powers anyone can possess. The empire she built was not just a testament to business acumen but a beacon illuminating the path for those who dare to believe in themselves and rise above every challenge.